Alright, baby, long time no see. What's happening, Forum? So recently, I finished watching a show with my friends. The 1996 classic Bakusyo Kyodai Let's and Go. I could not recommend it enough, especially if you're a fan of the hobby any genre in any capacity. As we were discussing it in the Discord call, somebody brought up the fact that you could not find the banger second opening on YouTube at all. I figured it had to be some kind of copyright block, but there was only one way to find out. Yep, just as suspected. I'm nosy though. Who exactly claimed this? Show Pro. Makes sense. Wait a second. Huh? But whose phone? I gotta admit something right now. I'm lying. This is not my first time hearing about Jet and Joey. I'm actually already very well acquainted with the legend of these two brothers. I had already researched this thoroughly months prior, but it was just one of those things that kind of like lived in the back of my brain. We're getting ahead of ourselves though. Let's take a couple steps back. As previously mentioned, Let's Him Go was an anime series from the mid 90s that was a tie in with Tamiya's popular toy line of mini 4-wheel drive. They're like raceable model kits. If you've seen any hobby Annie from the past 30 years, you've seen its DNA. If you have no idea what the term I'm using right now is, I'm just gonna pop the chart on screen since the consortium has not completed our TED Talk yet. Basically, all you need to know that this is a classic example of an extremely influential show that never made it to the Western Anglosphere. A while back, my good buddy Zep made a video on Mini 4-wheel drive, and I assisted with researching that. However, that kinda left me going down my own rabbit hole, being curious about its international release. They still got an active league in Italy.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. So these kids racing these cars? Eh.
They were holding official tournaments in Bulgaria in the 2000s. Just trust me on that. I couldn't find the article when I was writing the script. They got official pogs in Syria. Okay, so I have an entire set of these that I cannot find right now for the life of me, so the closest I could show you is a set of Beyblade build your own tops I have of the same exact origin. I'll just put in a picture right now of the pogs. I just moved. They're in one of my boxes, I don't know which. And they were giving out real cars as movie promotion in the Philippines. The Philippines are where we're traveling to today. Sometime during our Let's and Go group watch, somebody had brought up Jet and Joey, and that just ended up turning into one of our running jokes. Whenever we decide to watch it, someone would normally say in chat, anyone want a Jethro and Joseph tonight? But you know me. You tell me about Jet and Joey, and I'm gonna want to know more. My initial research brought up pretty much nothing. I found it referred to under numerous different titles. Sometimes it was just Let's and Go, sometimes it was Let's and Go Tamiya, sometimes it was Let's Go with Jet and Joey. I couldn't figure out exactly what they were calling the show at the time. The only concrete information I could find is that it aired in the Philippines sometime around the turn of the millennium, most likely on the channel GMA7. I wasn't even entirely sure if this dub was English or Tagalog at first. This eventually just turned into a subject I'd revisit every so often, and then it was late last year when I finally found something. As someone who is often hot on the trail of obscure Southeast Asian dubs, I decided to do some deep archive.org digging one night. My target? Kids Central, a Singaporean children's channel from the 2000s. It would later be known as Octo, but we're mainly focusing on the Kids Central era right now. What I found is not only did they air Let's and Go in 2001, but they aired its predecessor, Dash Yonkuro, which is arguably the first Hobby Annie. This is the type of thing about searching for these types of dubs. Every time I go in looking for one, I end up finding more. I end up with a whole list by the time I'm done my research. It's a never-ending cycle. As I look through the site, I look through the program guides, the official events, and even the remnants of their official forums. One of the things I noticed was some name inconsistencies. Sometimes they would be Jet and Joey, other times they would be Retz and Go. I know people used to disregard dub names in discussions online all the time back in the aughts, but it was hard to get the story straight here. Plus, they were using a bunch of names I hadn't even heard up to this point. Who was Ryan? Who the hell was James? It all became clearer thanks to my social media addiction. As I often do when I research things, I just started live tweeting. And before I knew it, my threads came to the eyes of someone who grew up watching the Kids Central airings of Let's and Go. They were able to confirm some of the names for me. I originally thought that James was Jiromaru, but it turns out his name was actually Jericho. Thanks to this person, I figured out why the names were inconsistent across the site. The Jet and Joey dub originated from the Philippines. We know this for sure, and I'll go into this more later. However, the second season, at least the version that aired on Kids Central, was not a Jet and Joey dub. This dub reverted back to the Japanese names and potentially used a different voice cast. Hi, I'm in the middle of editing right now, and I just realized I somehow completely forgot to mention in the script, I do know for a fact that there was at least one dub recorded in Singapore because I found an article by Alison Jean Lester where she mentions working on the Let's and Go dub. I have no idea how I forgot to mention this because this was one of my, first major breakthroughs before I found the website that I mentioned later in this video. I did try to message her one time and she never got back to me. It's unknown exactly why this was the case, if this is even true. Now, back to the Philippines. What exactly was going on there? Thanks to the new names we acquired, it helped me further my search. I eventually stumbled upon an old fan site, and then going through related links on that fan site, I finally found it. m4wd.net. This was the official website of Jet and Joey. The oldest archive of this website is from August of 2000. It both focused on toys and official Tamiya events, and also included an episode guide for Jet and Joey. Also, in the website's gallery tab, we were able to see more character names. The Downloads tab has some pretty snazzy wallpapers, as well as some mystery MP3 files that unfortunately were not archived. At the bottom of the page is the logo for Creative Products Corporation. This company, as you've probably already figured out, was based in the Philippines and dubbed anime for the Asian market. Their only other documented projects were Dragon Ball and Akazuki Cha-Cha. It was also seemingly licensed through the firm Animation International, but they just seemed to be a general licensing firm. I tried to find more info on Creative Products, but I couldn't really find anything outside of information on their Dragon Ball dub. This company is, barely documented. I did find a single article from 2004 talking about their involvement in Let's and Go, and this does imply that they dubbed World Grand Prix, so I'm not really sure what the situation was with the Kids Central airing, if that was a dub made by somebody else and Creative Products also did their own dub of World Grand Prix, or if Creative Products themselves decided to switch names between seasons. It's kind of a mystery. They also seemingly dubbed the movie, which we kind of already guessed based off of the advertisement seen earlier on in this video. It was released in theaters in January of 2001, and there was a trailer available on the official website, but much like the MP3s, this was not archived. So, we have a full list of character names now, don't we? Let's go over those names now. Seiba, Retz, and Go were Jet and Joey Saber. Jun and Jay had their names unchanged. Mini 4-wheel drive fighter just had his name directly translated. Ryo is Ryan, and as previously stated, his brother Jiromaru is Jericho. Tokichi is Timothy, Kai is Kyle, Gen is James, Ray is either unchanged or had their name changed to Rose, and might have had a gender change, judging by this forum thread. I found a thread on the forum where everyone was like arguing this character's gender. This character is male in the original, but this thread and this tweet from the person I was speaking to earlier seem to imply that they may have changed Ray's gender. Dr. Tsuchiya is Dr. Hendricks, and Dr. Ogami is Dr. O'Hara. Now, one of the big questions I have here is, did Creative Products come up with these names themselves, or did they potentially come from higher up? They were no stranger to edits in their dubs, and their Cha-Cha dub did change names. If it is their names, then how did it end up being something that ShowPro uses as well? There is a chance that these names were suggested to them via whoever licensed it to them. This was a relatively common practice during the 90s and 2000s. Pretty much everywhere that was dubbing anime did some form of localization, and dubs all across the world were changing names, and sometimes you would see the same names used throughout multiple dubs because it was one that was suggested by the original rights holders. Retz and Go have been known by many names. In Italy, there were Ricky and Jahigo. In Bulgaria, there were Ustrom and Grum. In Arabic dubs, there were Zabhik and Walihik. Nobody else seems to have used the Jet and Joey names, though. It's not like anything like this hasn't happened before. The series Revolutionary Girl Utena was originally pitched to the US under the title Ursula's Kiss. And somehow this title ended up getting reused in the Tagalog dub years later. This is an entire mystery for another day, but this is just kind of what it reminded me of. This still begs the question, though. Who was Fawn? I mean, did they potentially try to use Jet and Joey anywhere else? Mini 4-wheel drive never really took off in North America. There were some attempts years before Let's and Go. In the late 80s, a line called Record Breakers was launched by none other than Hasbro. That's right, always at the scene of the crime. They did have a tie-in TV show, which mostly consisted of footage of real-life events, but it seems like it was relatively short-lived. It could have been any number of reasons exactly as to why. We don't have sales numbers to check right now. Besides that, we don't really have that much else to go off of. I did find Dash Yonkuro on the website for Enoki Films, a licensing distributor, and it was under the title Dream Racers, so maybe they tried to bring that over at some point. Coincidentally, they did also seem to be tied to Ursula's Kiss. I can't seem to find any documented attempt to bring Let's and Go over, though. Now, how likely is it that we see this dub anytime soon? I'm gonna be honest, pretty slim. We're gonna have to pray somebody finds, like, some kind of home video recording of it, but let's face it, when you're a kid, this isn't something you think to do. Like, even if you have the equipment to do it, you're just more like, oh, I want to watch my show right now. Like, you're not thinking that far in ahead. This is something that just as easily happens on our side of the globe. Just look at the video I did on Idaten Jump. It is possible there was some kind of home video release, as I did see VCDs and VHS tapes of their Dragon Ball dub, but I didn't really see anything when I was scouring Shopee, which is a popular, like, secondhand shopping website in Southeast Asia. It's not out of the question that they exist, though, but I haven't seen anything. I guess, like, the only other extreme hypothetical idea I have, this is very slim, this is just me being delusional, is that, the company that owned Kid Central does have a streaming service now, and they have Octo as part of that. Maybe if they somehow like manage to get the rights to a bunch of their older shows and put it on there. Again, like I said, this is just me being delusional. I really don't see this happening. I do hope we could uncover some snippets from it someday, though. I am really intrigued to hear what it sounded like. Also, I'm just really sappy and corny when it comes to this kind of stuff, personally. Think about it. This might sound like a nothing burger to a lot of people, but this was a huge part of the childhood experience of hundreds of thousands of people. This was something real people had to sit down and make, and I think they deserve some credit for their work. This is far from the only lost dub for Let's 'Em Go, too. I couldn't find anything about the Bulgarian dub. Like, I couldn't even find that article I saw like a year or two ago. I don't know what happened to it. The Brazilian Portuguese dub only has like one episode found, and I wouldn't be shocked if there was a Tagalog dub all along. You never know with these type of things. I don't know. I just think it's neat.